Breaking news today. Military steps up attack, cutting off access to Gaza City. An Israeli army spokesman reported that both surface and subsurface targets had been attacked, and that Israeli forces had completely encircled Gaza City. In an effort to limit the spread of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made an unannounced visit to Baghdad. While in the West Bank, he also met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, with whom he discussed the Palestinian Authority's potential role in Gaza's post-Hamas future. The Washington Post reported that officials in the administration of President Joe Biden are dissatisfied with the number of civilian casualties caused by Israel's military campaign. According to the Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry, approximately 9,500 people have been killed in the territory as a result of Israeli attacks. Go here to read up on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. All times are displayed in Israeli time. WP. In wake of Gaza crisis, Biden administration has few options. The Washington Post reports that officials in the administration of President Joe Biden are frustrated by their inability to influence Israel over its military campaign against Hamas because it has caused too many civilian casualties and lacks a coherent endgame. The paper cited a senior administration official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to relay the conversations, while the White House declined to comment for the article. The newspaper reported that the administration is now attempting to calm anger among Arab nations by making it clear that the United States is distressed by the suffering in the Gaza Strip. The shape of the Middle East after the war, and the role of the United States in it, remains unclear, but there is little sign that Arab leaders are moved by these assurances. Jordan's King Abdullah II said the nation air-dropped urgent medical aid to the Jordanian field hospital in Gaza City. The king posted on X, formerly Twitter, that, "This is our duty to aid our brothers and sisters injured in the war on Gaza. In other words, we will always be there for our Palestinian brethren." On a tour of the region, the head of the CIA stops in Israel at night. The New York Times, citing unnamed U.S. officials, reported that CIA Director William Burns had arrived in Israel on the first leg of a tour of the Middle East. According to the Times, the United States wants to increase intelligence sharing with Israel and other regional allies. Hamas is holding hostages inside Gaza, which is one of the problems. At 8:57 p.m., Israel launched a significant, expanded attack on Gaza City. Israel's army spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, stated that the city of Gaza has been completely surrounded by Israeli forces, effectively cutting off the northern part of the Strip from the south, and that senior Hamas commanders were being sought. Meanwhile, Hagari emphasized that a humanitarian corridor allowing people from the Gaza City area to travel south was still operational. At 8:52 p.m., Israel began firing on Hezbollah positions in Lebanon. According to Hagari, Israel retaliated against Hezbollah positions after Lebanese anti-tank fire resulted in the death of a civilian. Other targets included terrorist infrastructure, terrorist units, and vehicles used by terrorists, he added, while armed aircraft flying towards Israel were also hit. At 8:50 p.m., Blinken unexpectedly visits Baghdad. In an effort to limit the spread of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, Blinken made an unannounced visit to Baghdad. The United States has accused Iranian-backed groups of carrying out a series of attacks on American forces in the Middle East prior to Blinken's visit to the Iraqi capital. Blinken told reporters in Baghdad on Sunday that it was crucial to send a very clear message to anyone who might try to use the conflict in Gaza as an excuse to threaten American personnel in Iraq or elsewhere in the region. Don't go through with it. At 8:15 p.m., Hezbollah retaliated to a strike that killed civilians by launching Grad missiles at Israel. According to state-run NNA, the Israeli military attacked a civilian car in South Lebanon, prompting the Hezbollah militant group to claim that it fired several Grad missiles at the Israeli city of Kiryat Shmona in response. Hezbollah has declared that it will never tolerate harm and assault on civilians, adding that its response will be firm and strong. According to an ex-post from the office of Lebanon's prime minister, an Israeli drone recently killed 4 people, including 3 children. Concerns voiced by senior U.S. senators about civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip indicate that Israel's military response to Hamas' attack last month is coming under increasing scrutiny in Washington. Independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said on CNN's State of the Union that while Israel has the right to defend itself, it does not have the right to kill thousands upon thousands of men, women, and children who had nothing to do with the attack. Gaza experiences a breakdown in communication and internet at around 6:40 p.m. For the third time since the Israel-Hamas war began, Paltel, the primary telecom provider in the Palestinian territory, reported that internet and telecom services had been disrupted in Gaza. Israel condemns the systematic use of hospitals as military bases by Hamas. 4:30 p.m. The Israeli military has claimed that Hamas makes systematic use of hospitals in Gaza to conceal its military operations there. A tunnel used by Hamas is located above the Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani Hospital, which was built in Qatar, according to IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari. He also claimed that Israeli troops were fired upon while inside the hospital by Hamas. Hagari told reporters on Sunday that Hamas is using the Indonesian hospital, another medical facility, to conceal an underground command and control center. A launch pad for Hamas rockets is situated 75 meters, 245 feet, from the hospital, he added. The Israeli army on October 27 said Hamas has its military headquarters under the Shifa Hospital, Gaza's biggest medical complex. Gilad Erdan, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, said on Sunday that there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza and that a humanitarian pause to the conflict with Hamas is not necessary. On CNN's State of the Union, Erdan said, "We don't see the need for humanitarian pauses right now, because it will only enable Hamas to rearm and regroup." Currently, nearly 100 trucks a day transport food and medicine into the Gaza Strip from Egypt through the Rafah crossing. 3:30 p.m., Blinken meets with Cyprus officials to discuss Gaza aid. While in Cyprus, Blinken met briefly with President Nikos Christodoulides at Larnaca Airport to discuss humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. According to a written statement released by government spokesman Konstantinos Letambiadis, the initiative to establish a maritime corridor for the provision of aid from the Mediterranean island of Cyprus was discussed at length. Blinken and Abbas have a meeting at 3:20 p.m. On Sunday, Blinken met with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah as the Biden administration continued to urge Israel to protect civilians during its offensive against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. According to a State Department summary, Blinken made clear that Palestinians must not be forcibly displaced, and reaffirmed the United States' dedication to providing humanitarian aid and restoring essential services in Gaza. Blinken met with Israeli and Arab officials in Tel Aviv and Amman to discuss the humanitarian situation in Gaza and to urge countries to consider a post-Hamas future for the enclave. The visit was not announced in advance. As reported by the European Commission, anti-Semitic incidents have risen to extraordinary levels in Europe in recent days, bringing historical parallels to the darkest periods of the past. The resurgence was condemned, in the strongest possible terms, by the Commission, and the body vowed to continue working with member states to increase security. The police chief of Paris, Laurent Nuez, has also reported a explosion in anti-Semitic incidents in recent months. Since October 7, he said, 257 such incidents have occurred in the Greater Paris area. The mayor of Lyon reported that a Jewish woman had been stabbed in her home and that a anti-Semitic inscription had been found on her door.